Hi, welcome to week 5 of the N.E.W.T.s readathon and also the very last vlog for the N.E.W.T.s readathon. This is the last week of the readathon and I am right on track with finishing all of the books I have to read. In fact, just last night I finished Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. I read about 130 pages last night, I think, and I finished it and I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I like this less than I did Shadow and Bone, which I think I gave 4.5 stars. It was still enjoyable and I still really love this world and the whole magic system, but I did think that this book was more about preparing for the last book, setting up things for the final battle or whatever's going to happen, then it was really a story of its own. And the things that happened were still interesting, but not that much did happen. And there was mostly just a lot of anticipation. I did like the climax of the story, the thing that happened at the end, but I also did think it was quite dramatic, a little too dramatic for my tastes, but still pretty good and interesting. I'm curious to find out what will happen in the last book because the characters are in an interesting position, let's put it like that, right now. I must say I'm a little less inclined to read on than I was after finishing Shadow and Bone. After I finished Shadow and Bone, I kind of wanted to continue and read this one right away, but I really don't have that urge for the last book right now. Anyway, it was an enjoyable read. I hope to read the last book, which is Ruin and Rising, later this year, but we'll see what happens. I don't think I'm going to read it next month because there are a lot of other books I want to read first, but I'll probably get to it before the end of the year. So that means I have now finished 6 books. This one was for History of Magic, for the prompt for Exceeds Expectations, which was to read a book with a map in it. And now there's only one book left, and that book is for Defense Against Dark Arts for Exceeds Expectations. And the prompt for that was a difficult one for me. It was read the first book on your TBR that you think of right now. I don't do well with those things. I don't remember what I thought of. I get too stressed about doing it right, but there were a couple of books I thought of right away. There were History is All You Left Me. I was about to say History of Magic, but that's not right. History is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. Dear Martin by Nick Stone. And then there was Heartstopper Volume 2 by Alice Oseman. But while I did think of this book at the time of compiling my TBR, I hadn't received this book yet because Book Depository messed up a little bit and I didn't get my pre-order until a few weeks ago. But I am going to read this one. I'm not sure if this was the first one I thought of, but it's really easy to cheat with this prompt as well. I don't think I am cheating because I did think of this one. But yeah, this is what I'll be reading. I think I'll be starting it later this afternoon. I'm about to go do some groceries and then I have some time. So I think I'll start this because I'm really excited to read it. I have been ever since I finished Heartstopper Volume 1, which I read in June. And it's also the perfect way to end the readathon, I think, because this is a light graphic novel and after reading a fantasy book, I'm really in the mood for this. Hello! It is now Friday. My weekend has started. If you're hearing noise on the background, by the way, that's because there's some construction going on somewhere and it's really annoying, but not really anything I can do about that. But like I said, it's Friday, it's the 30th of August, which means that tomorrow is the last day of the readathon. And I finished all the books I needed to read on Tuesday already, I think. But I didn't update you again because I wasn't really feeling like it. I'm having a bit of a rough week mental health wise, so I'm just taking it easy and just doing the things that I want to do and the things that I really have to do. But yeah, I finished the readathon. I read my last book, which is Heartstopper Volume 2 by Alice Oseman, on Monday and Tuesday. And this camera is heavy. I'm gonna get my tripod. Be right back. And I'm back. my hair is also different because my hair tie loosened. Whatever. Where was I? Where's my book? Here it is. So yeah, I finished Heartstopper Volume 2, which was the last book, the 7th book I needed to read for the N.E.W.T.s readathon, and this was for Defense Against the Dark Arts for N.E.W.T.s Expectations. And I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. This was so adorable. I think I gave the first volume 4.5 out of 5 stars, but now I'm invested in the characters, so I just loved everything they did. I'm especially completely in love with Nelly the dog, who is the dog of one of the 2 main characters. If you like graphic novels and if you like really sweet LGBT romance stories, I'd say you definitely should give this a read. So yeah, that was the last book for the readathon. I haven't come completely prepared because perhaps I should do a quick wrap up for the readathon, but I'll just make it up as I go along. So yeah, I read 7 books. The first one was Welkom in N.E.W.T.s by Hannah Barefoot, which was a Dutch book, which I read for Ancient Runes for an acceptable. Then I also read... Oh, this is difficult. Hang on a minute, I'm gonna get my bullet journal. I'm back again. So yeah, here's my bullet journal. I haven't even filled out the last 2 yet, but like I said, I read For an Acceptable in Ancient Runes, Welkom in N.E.W.T.s by Hannah Barefoot, which I gave 3.5 stars, I think, but I'm not sure. Then for an... Oh, my boyfriend is getting home.
Hallo?
Is goed. Ik ben bijna klaar. Okay, so one more time. For Ancient Runes, I read Welkom in N.E.W.T.s by Hannah Barefoot for a read recommended by a friend for an acceptable. Then for N.E.W.T.s Expectations, for a book written in the past tense, I read Holding by Graham Norton, which I gave 3 stars, I think. And then for an outstanding, for Ancient Runes, for a book that has been on your TBR for ages, I read another graphic novel, which was Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. Then we move on to Defense Against the Dark Arts. For an acceptable, for a book that's black under the dust jacket, I read I'll Be There For You by Kelsey Miller, about friends. I don't even remember how many stars I gave that one, I think 4, 4.5, I don't know. And then I read For N.E.W.T.s Expectations, for the first book that you remember just now. That one was Heartstopper Volume 2. And then we move on to History of Magic. For an acceptable, for read a fantasy book, I read Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone by J.K. Rowling. I read the illustrated edition. It seems like such a long time ago already, but I read that and loved it, obviously. And then for N.E.W.T.s Expectations, I read Ruin and Rising. That's not true, that's the 3rd book, I haven't even read that one yet. I read Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo for read a book that includes a map. And so I've read all 7 books, and that means I am now qualified to become a librarian. I had a lot of fun this readathon. I didn't have as much fun as I thought I would. I wasn't as invested in the readathon itself. I think it's really cool, but I didn't spend that much time on Twitter or chatting with people who were also doing the readathon, which is what I did do during the Owls. So I enjoyed all the books I read. I enjoyed the idea of fulfilling these prompts, but I wasn't really that present online. I haven't really been that present on social media for the past few weeks anyway. But I had a good time, and I'm glad that I managed to read all the books I wanted to read. I am about to read this one, Memento by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, which will be the 10th book I've read this month, because besides these 7 books I've also listened to 2 audiobooks, Eliza and Her Monsters and The Unhoneymooners. But I want to have read 10 books this month, so I'm going to read this one. I didn't think I was going to be able to read Memento because this was promotion material. Yeah, I think this was promotional material for Aurora Rising, which is their new book, the first book in the new series, which I didn't like. But this one came with that for people who ordered it at a specific store. I don't know, it was in America and I'm not from America. But my good friend Inge from Inge's Wonderland, or of Wonderland is the blog she has, knew I wanted to read this, and she did receive it, and she suggested she'd send it to me so I could read it, and then I'd send it back to her. So I'm ever so grateful to Inge if she's watching this. Thank you very much. I think I'm going to read this today, this afternoon, or this weekend. Not this weekend, tomorrow, otherwise it won't be this month anymore. And I hope I love it. I love the Illuminae series. This is a novella for the Illuminae series. But that's also the end of this vlog. Again, only 2 clips, but I noticed that I wasn't really feeling like vlogging anymore these past 2 weeks. Perhaps it had something to do with me starting my new job, or maybe it was just that I was over it after 3, 4, 5 weeks of doing it. It was fun, but I'm definitely not going to do this every week because it just adds some pressure, and I don't like pressure. So yeah, thank you for watching these vlogs. I hope you like them. I hope you like this one, and have a wonderful day. Bye.